This time I would like to welcome everyone today to Lake Circuit Court, where we begin each year with our annual memorial ceremonies, where we honor, remember, and pay respects to our colleagues in the profession who have passed on in the last year, and we are glad you are with us today. Before we commence any further, I would like to wish everyone a very healthy and prosperous new year, and I am sure this year will be better than last year. This time, I would like to recognize the leaders of the Lake County Bar Association, this year's incoming president, Shalise Tolbert, who is sitting to my left, and also the immediate past president, Jacqueline Pillar. Is she here? There she is. And Dan Jora, who has some motions and some preliminary matters we have to dispose of. Jora?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll defer to President Tolbert.
Okay.
Good morning, Your
Good
Honor.
morning.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Shalise Tolbert, the Lake County Bar President for the year 2016. I would like to say welcome and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope that you all have a blessed year. We value our Lake County Bar members, and it is an honor to recognize those that have passed on this year. We thank you for coming, and we will proceed with the service.
Thank you, Shalise. May it please the court,
Yes, sir.
we gather for the 26th annual Lake County Bar Memorial Service in the Lake Circuit Court. It's become a tradition to honor those past practitioners who have passed away during the previous year. Before we start, I'd like to recognize the efforts, as usual, of Deborah White, our Executive Director, without whose work and dedication programs like this would not be produced. We've come a long way, Deb, since the days of Lowell Inslin, who used to organize this ceremony only in Hammond for the Hammond Bar, and he had an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper which he folded in half. Harold Abramson, I'm sure, remembers the program from the Hammond Bar Association the way it came every year. And Lowell Inslin carried the tradition on down here and then passed it along to me and Arnie Krebitz, but we'll hear more about that in a few minutes. First on the list is Lisa Carmouche, who actually passed away previous year, December 29, 2014, the daughter of Hamilton Carmouche. And you, I know there are people out in the audience that, like I, knew Hamilton very well. I started practicing with Spangler Jennings down in 5th and Broadway in 1975, October of 1975, and Hamilton Carmouche was one of the regulars that practiced down there, along with Jackie Shropshire, his partner, Bill King. We all met and worked out what was the date. I see Judge Hawkins standing back there too. You were with Mr. Shropshire, and Mr. Allen was his first name, Judge? Julian Allen. And then we all gathered, instead of eating lunch at the Boys and Girls Club on 5th Avenue there in Gary, to play racquetball and handball. And boy, those were the days, you know, when I actually worked out. Anyway, so Lisa Carmouche was 46 from Gary, and as I say, she passed away December 29, 2014. Lisa was born on September 19, 1968 in Lincoln, Nebraska, to Hamilton and Hazel Carmouche. She was a graduate of Warwick High School, class of 1986, and Whittier College, where she obtained a BA degree in 1999. And then she attended Valparaiso University Law School, where she graduated in 2001. We hate to see when young people die. She leaves behind to cherish her memory of her dad, Hamilton, son Lon Carmouche, her brother Christopher, and his wife Christine. services were held at St. Mary the Lake Catholic Church in Miller, with interment at Evergreen Park, actually on January 9, 2015. So even then, with the change of the year and the holidays, things were a bit delayed for Lisa Carnouchian, the first person to be honored this morning. Next, my co-chair, Arnie Krebitz, especially sad for me to present a eulogy for Arnie, who died on January 13th of 2015. Arnie Krebitz was an all-around nice guy. I first came to know him since he was counsel for Sears Roebuck. He did collection work for Sears. And again, when I started in 1975, I learned from Pat Doherty, one of the senior name partners at Spangler, who did the defense work for Sears, slip and fall cases, that kind of liability work, that Arnie was sometimes involved in the same cases, because Arnie would file a lawsuit to collect on a washing machine or a dryer or a Kenmore appliance of some sort, and then he'd draw a counterclaim because the appliance was supposedly defective or whatever the defenses were, and Pat Doherty would end up defending Sears, and that's how I first came to know that Arnie represented Sears in Lake and Porter counties. We had also, at Spangler, apparently also represented Allstate for years, and for those of you who didn't know, Allstate Insurance, when it did start, was a subsidiary of Sears, a wholly owned subsidiary. It was just a little booth in each Sears Roebuck store. I know I'm testing memories now because that doesn't happen anymore. Allstate's out on its own, but it's true. And so the so-called good hands people included Arnie Krebitz as part of their council. Now we know Allstate as Mayhem and the net that goes up at the college football games for the extra points and the field goals, but that's modern day Allstate. The old Allstate used to be a part of Sears, and Arnie Krebitz was very much a part of Sears, and he did one heck of a job too. They were based in Norfolk, Illinois. Well, that store, as you all know, in the early 70s became an anchor at South Lake Mall. Arnie did an admirable job representing Sears in their collection. He then came to the Discover card, which again, when I used to visit with Arnie about it, that practically put him out of business when it came to the collection work. Discover card was also a Sears entity when it started. And then, of course, the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. And by now, Arnie was getting a little too older. He practiced for 50 total years in Lake County, but Ralph Nader and the consumers and everybody else that marched on Congress and the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, that was making it a bit too much. So Arnie got out of that business, and he did almost exclusively family law and bankruptcy towards the end. He was sworn in to practice in 1954, and just so you get a little context, I was born December of 1950. So Arnie was practicing law when I was 4 years old. And that ought to demonstrate the relative positions. But he was much more experienced than I, a first lieutenant in the United States Army. Arnie came to be known as one of the regulars in Lake County Family Court here with Judge Hall in the Lake Circuit Court, and he was a gentleman's gentleman. Arnie was, if you were Batman, Arnie was Robin. If you were the Lone Ranger, Arnie Krebitz was Constance. He was Lucille Ball. If you were Lucille Ball, he was Ethel. If you were Desi Arnaz, he was Fred Mertz. You know what I'm talking about. If you were Fred Flintstone, he was Barney Rubble. Arnie was a sidekick. He was Stitch. He made people laugh. He had a great sense of humor. He practiced criminal law, too. He actually served as Judge Pro Tem in the Gary City criminal courts back in the day, before I started in 75, but he got a good reputation for handling criminal cases, too. He graduated from IU in Bloomington with a Bachelor of Science, and then got a law degree under the GI Bill after World War II. like my father-in-law and a lot of the older practitioners. He was a longtime member of the Temple Israel in Miller. His folks, Sidney and Marion, predeceased him. His wife, Eileen, is still alive and moved to Reno, Nevada. His daughter, Lynn Mitchell, lives in Austin, Texas. His son, Stephen, is in San Ramon, California. And his sister, Suzanne Horowitz, lives in California. I wanted to share with you a couple of the memories that people left for Arnie's obituary, because they're very telling, and they do some tribute and honor to this individual who served for years as co-chair of this Honors and Necrology Committee. Arnie was faithful, loyal, dedicated, honest, trustworthy, truthful. He was, every time an attorney would die, he would cut out the obituary and put it in the mail to me. Originally, he would, especially after Low Enslin passed, he would send a little note, "Dear Dan, attached, please find the obituary on so-and-so." Towards the end, he would just cut out the obit and throw that in there. And I saw him one time up at White Sox Park with his brother off the third base line. I didn't recognize him at first because it was out of context, that he was an attorney and he's sitting there, having a hot dog with his brother. And I said, "Arnie, how's it going?" And he goes, did you realize that so-and-so passed away a couple weeks ago?" And I said, "No, I must have missed that." "Oh, I'll send you that obituary." Here's what Yvonne Gallup said: "Dearest Eileen, Stephen, Lynn, and family, I will always cherish the wonderful memories of a very long friendship. It was indeed an honor to be part of Arnie's life. Memory eternal, dear friend." And this was from Melissa Cohen, who we all know and love, fellow practitioner here. "I will always remember your dad's wonderful sense of humor, Lynn. He was always laughing with us, and when we were kids, even when you drew a smiley face on his bald spot in permanent marker when he had to show up in court the following morning. I just saw him in May at my father's funeral. Max Cohen had passed away the year before. He was so very kind to come. My deepest sympathies for the beloved loss of your father. He was such a sweet and wonderful man, such a loss to all." Regards, Melissa Cohen. Cindy Ostrowski-Kenneth said, "Arnie was one of the good guys in town from Gary. I knew him through my father and considered him a good friend. For a short time, we were also neighbors in Miller." Marvin Rosenstein from Indian Wells, California wrote, "To my dear friend Arnie, you made America smile. I am saddened by your passing. You were special to me and my family. The Crevices were the first to open up their home to me on Thanksgiving of 1947, when, as a fraternity brother from IU, you took me in and showed me the ropes. We discovered T-bills together, all-you-can-eat perch back in the day. You took me for a tour of Star Jewelers on Broadway in Gary. You introduced me and my wife of 60 years, Marilyn, and prompted that relationship. You were a groomsman at our wedding. You introduced my sister-in-law to her husband, Percy and Sandy Bell, and prompted that relationship. Arnie had a little bit of the matchmaker. You married one of my nephews at home in Munster. A fraternity and a lifelong friend. We will always miss you, Arnie, and our thoughts will be with your family. I am sure the cherished memories will provide some solace. With love and respect, Marv Rosenstein." Steve Strauss wrote, "Arnie was and always will be a part of wonderful memories from my fraternity brother days at IU. Sincere condolences to the family." Marcia and I, Jonathan Alpert wrote, "Marcia and I are thinking of you in this difficult time, and we hope that many wonderful memories will help comfort you." Howard Stein wrote, "Marcia and I want to express our deepest condolences to Eileen, Lynn, Stephen, and the rest of the family. It was a privilege to have known and worked with Arnie Crevice. My condolences to family members. In recent years, I prayed and socialized with him at Shabbat services at Temple Israel recently." Signed, Barry Rappaport. Jim Linnell wrote, Arnie will always be in my heart as he was in 1999 when we first met. I deeply miss him already. He illuminated the universe because you certainly illuminated the earth. Rest in peace, my friend. Arnie was a graduate of Horace Mann High School in 1947 and was very proud of that. And lastly, Georgia Angelo Nichols wrote, Blessed is the true judge. I will miss Arnie, my friend of 40 years. We haven't seen each other for a while, but it was comforting to know that you were still around. And now you're gone. I will miss the laughter and your smile and generous spirit. He may not be remembered for what he said or for the things that he did, but for the lives that he touched and the way that he made them feel. My heartfelt condolences to Eileen and the Arnie Kravitz family, George Nichols. And so, good friend, in care of our Honors in the Crowns Committee, I'll quote Senator Edward M. Kennedy in concluding your eulogy by saying, the work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dreams shall never die. Rest in peace, my good friend Arnie Kravitz. Now I switch to Rich Matuga, who I knew very, very briefly. In 1990, I was telling President Tolbert, and we had our Lake County Bar inauguration dinner and banquet over at Wicker Park, and Chief Justice Shepard, who had just been sworn in, was the guest speaker, guest of honor. We sat at the table together with Rich Matuga. His wife happened to work for Eichhorn and Eichhorn. And at the time, I was seated next to Dick Haney, who was a partner over at Eichhorn. And that's how I first met Rich Matuga. He also passed away January 19 of 2015. He was 74 years old and from Munster. Survived by 2 sisters and a sister-in-law. Rich was a lifelong resident of the Calumet region, graduated from the University of Wisconsin, undergrad, and received his law degree from IU in 1965. So, as I said, I didn't know him back then because I would have been 15 and still living in New York. He was a licensed attorney in both Indiana and Illinois since 1971. He was the attorney for the city of Birmingham. He was active in the Lansing Bar Association and other civic organizations. His relatives were not able to attend. His sister-in-law Joan lives in Rockville, Maryland. His sister Barbara lives in Houston. Pamela Matuga of Vacaville, California, is also surviving an additional nieces and nephews. Preceded in death by his parents, Joseph J. and Mary G. Matuga, and his brother Joseph. Joe Matuga, I believe, was our probate commissioner up in Room 4 for years. I was unaware that he passed away. The obituaries are correct. So funeral services were held at Solon Cruisin and St. Nicholas Orthodox Church in Homewood, Illinois, for Joe Matuga. Sharing a few of the memories that were sent in for Rich. My dear cousin Richard will be missed by my family at the many Easter dinners, Christmas dinners, and picnics that we always invited him to. He was a great conversationalist, and we always enjoyed his stories and a great smile. Glenn Chang of Chicago wrote, Rich was so dedicated to the village of Burnham. He was kind and generous with his time and a tremendous help to me on a case that we had recently. I'm very saddened to hear of his passing. Bruce Carisho from Vermont. Rich was a great person and I respected him not only as a friend but as a boss. I worked for Rich Matuga for over 5 years as an investigator, and it was a great honor to have him as a friend and employer. He will always be in my prayers. Ron Hedelius from Burlington, Ontario, wrote, Rich was a fine man and I respected him greatly. We were in the high school class of 58 together at East Chicago, Washington. I'm sure we are all saddened by his loss. Anne Marie Kutsora, the reunion chair at the high school, said farewell to a loyal member of East Chicago, Washington's class of 1958. Rich Patuga always made a generous donation to our reunions. We are very saddened to learn of his passing. He was a true harbor boy, proud of his roots, and always a gentleman. And lastly, Maggie Dawson of Munster wrote, Rich was our next-door neighbor and was so friendly and welcoming from the day we moved in. He and my husband spent many hours chatting over the fence. Actually, there was no fence. We were very sad to hear of his passing. He always had a funny story or a tidbit of neighborhood news or a friendly hello. Rich, we will miss you. You were a great neighbor. Truly wish we had gotten to have you around longer. Maggie Dawson from Munster. So that's Richard J. Matuga, passed away at the age of 74, January 13, 2015. Well, I'm going to pass the torch here to Judge Stefaniak to talk about Elizabeth G. Teagarden, and then we'll come back to continue the ceremony.
Judge.
Good morning, all. I didn't have much of an opportunity to really work with Elizabeth Teagarden very long, and in all candor, I did write this eulogy, but it was written by somebody who knows her very well. And by the time I did have an opportunity to work with her, I found it all to be true. Elizabeth Gail Teagarden was born on January the 25th, 1954 in Marion, Indiana. Gail lived in Gary, Indiana for 35 years. She graduated cum laude from Boston University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Literature. She received her law degree from Valparaiso University School of Law in 1981. Gail's entire career was dedicated to advocating for those in need, especially abused and neglected children. Gail started her legal career representing indigent clients at Legal Services of Northwest Indiana Incorporated, and while working for Legal Services, she also served as an assistant professor of law at Valparaiso University School of Law. Gail taught a clinical program in juvenile law and supervised students serving as guardian ad litems for abused and neglected children. Gail later also served as a public defender in the Lake Superior Juvenile Court, where she represented juveniles charged with delinquent acts. In 1987, Senior Juvenile Court Judge Mary Beth Bonaventura and Gail started the Lake County Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, CASA program, which is the second largest CASA program in the state of Indiana. Gail served as the director of the CASA program for 25 years. Gail advocated for the best interest of thousands of children throughout her 25 years with CASA and maintained the program and made it what it is today. Gail also wrote more than 100 appellate briefs on the topic of abuse and neglect, and her hard work and dedication earned her several accolades, including CASA Director of the Year. Gail's dedication and passion for helping abused and neglected children and providing them with legal representation is unparalleled, and she is known throughout the state of Indiana for her hard work and worthy work. She was known for being tough, eloquent, hardworking, well-versed on the law, and never giving up. In 2012, Gail was appointed magistrate of the Lake Superior Court Juvenile Court. She served in that capacity until shortly before her untimely passing. While on the bench, she was fair, compassionate, patient, respectful, and thorough, and probably one of the best writers that I've ever met. Gail was a stylish, fun, and creative person. She was a wonderful sister, aunt, friend, and mentor. Her creativity and love of art was exemplified through her elaborate and thoughtful presentation of crafts and her appreciation for music, especially Bob Dylan and Tom Petty. Gail loved her dogs, leaving behind her beloved Matilda. She was an excellent person to work for, very highly intelligent, very dedicated, and a true benefit to our legal community.
Is Lisa Field here? Yeah, why not? Thank you, Judge Stefaniak. Next, on behalf of DeCayu Sumner, Lindsay Field.
Thank you, sir. I'd first like to thank the Lake County Bar Association and Ms. Deborah White for reaching out to me, and all of the family and friends that are here this morning to recognize those attorneys who have passed away in 2015. My name is Lindsay Field, and I'm deeply honored to be speaking on behalf of my dear and beautiful friend, DeCayu Sumner. DeCayu and I started working at the prosecutor's office together on the same day in 2010, and we became fast friends on our walk up to the Sheriff's Department to get our information badges. From the first moment I spoke with her, I immediately knew 4 things that continued to ring true until the very end. She was whip smart, she was charismatic, she was passionate, and she was courageous. Our prosecuting attorney, Bernard Carter, and his chief deputy, Kevin McConnell, recently referred to her as also being fearless. Every case they assigned to her was prosecuted with diligence, confidence, and reasonableness. When she spoke in a courtroom, everyone was captivated by her charisma. She was an asset in every sense of the word to the office of the prosecuting attorney and to the citizens of the Lake County. Her time as an assistant city attorney for the city of Gary truly hallmarked her career of public service. The residents of Gary benefited from DeCayu's legal skills and thoroughness during her tenure under Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson. In DeCayu's time as a solo practitioner, she was a fierce advocate for those she represented. Her compassion and kindness was further evidenced by her role as leader of Girl Scout Cadet Troop 4. The young women in her troop could not have had a better role model than DeCayu. Who better to aspire to be than a high school valedictorian and an attorney who not only works hard, but also gives back to the community. One of the most important parts of DeCayu's life was her membership and activism in the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. After she became a member, I don't think I ever saw her when she wasn't wearing something red. Her time in the sorority culminated with her being awarded Delta of the Year for 2014 to 2015. DeCayu was in every sense of the word a public servant. If not for the various positions she held as an attorney, then certainly through her involvement in the multiple community organizations she played such an integral part in. DeCayu's mother, Yvonne Lucas, who's here this morning, should be recognized today as well for having raised such a generous, loving, and loyal daughter who touched others deeply and unforgettably. She is greatly missed, but much admired. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay, for those very, very touching comments. Is Kenya Jones present for Shalonda Crump? You know, I was mentioning to President Tolbert that the only time we didn't have a service was the year that Jim Mahoney died. I don't know if you remember those older people, and Harold, I know you do, from the Hammond Bar. James Mahoney was one of the partners with Cy Rubin and Associates in downtown Hammond, and I knew him only because I was busy defending fender vendors and slip and falls and Allstate and State Farm cases before I launched into medical malpractice defense. But that year, Jim Mahoney was the only attorney who passed away. And I called Corky Funk, who was, I think, the president of the Bar Association, and I said, we're going to have a whole memorial service and a ceremony with family members and friends and lawyers and judges, and there's only one fellow who passed away. And he said, yeah, you're right. I think we should honor Jim the following year. So that's what we did. So actually, this is the 26th annual, but it's really only the 25th successive service that we're having here this morning. It was a good year. Only 6 attorneys passed away. As I mentioned, Shalonda D. Crump passed away January 27, 2015. Kenya Jones was lined up to give her eulogy, but I think we'll just maybe publish it.
I just checked the hallway. She's not out there.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Oh, okay, great. President Tolbert knew Shalonda, so President Shalise Tolbert.
I knew Shalonda not very well, but I knew her well enough to know that we had something in common and that we both loved Brian McKnight. Every concert that I attended of Brian McKnight, she was there, and she was the ultimate fan that would get a chance to meet him backstage, and I was so jealous of that. Shalonda was a very intelligent woman. She served as, I believe, the secretary and the vice president of the Kimbrough Bar Association before her passing. Even during her illness, she attended meetings for the Kimbrough Bar Association and stayed dedicated to her position. I did not come across her in the courtroom often because I know Shalonda did a lot of family law, if I'm not mistaken. She was over here. I've seen her over here often. I just was not familiar enough with the type of the area of law that she was in. But every time I saw her, she was working hard. She always had a smile on her face. You didn't know that anything was going on with her whenever you saw her. She was dedicated to the community, very close with her mother. Her and her mother would do a lot of things together, even concerts. That's how I got to meet her mom. And I know that Shalonda also worked for a short period of time with attorney Tony Walker out of here. Shalonda passed away the day after we opened our office, which was very shocking for us to hear. And she was always very nice, very generous, and very loving and kind. Every time I saw her, she would be missed.
Thank you, Shalise. Well, one more housekeeping item. You're more than welcome to join us for coffee and donuts in the back. I have one more formal thing to do on behalf of the Lake County Bar Association, and that is, Your Honor, to motion or move that we spread these proceedings of record for posterity and for all other purposes in the future. Someday, I also have to recognize our court reporter, Mary Slattendorf, who's been here for almost every one of these, and who has transcribed in full and complete every word that's ever been said on behalf of our Lake County attorneys. I think we got a book here. Somebody want to start negotiating for the rights to the book, maybe even a major motion picture. Harold, producer, director. Anyway, thank you so much for attending. As I said, I move on behalf of the Bar Association to spread the proceedings of record to be kept in our memories and hearts forever. And thank you again for attending, Your Honor.
Motion granted.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Tolbert and Mr. Joya. Before we do conclude, at this time I would just like to thank all the speakers for sharing their time and their gracious thoughts and comments with us. It is important for us to remember not only that our colleagues existed, but that they mattered and they made a contribution and made a difference. And that is why we recognize them, remember them, and honor them today. In their lives, they honored us as members of the profession, made nobler by them, and as men and women, they are gone but not forgotten. Our business being concluded this date, this hearing is now in recess until this time next year. Thank you. The court stands adjourned.